So I figured that today's video I would do while taking my makeup off, because what better way to be completely stripped of everything than taking my makeup off. So I already filmed this video the other night and I accidentally deleted it off my camera because I thought I'd imported it and I hadn't. It was just a big mess. But I figured today I would talk to you guys about where I came from, what my life has been like, what my childhood was like and everything. And again, this is a very condensed, if you will, condensed version of it, but you know, whatever. So I was born September 12th, 1991 to my mom and my dad. My mom's name is Erin Kathleen. She goes by Erin, but I like her middle name. She hated her middle name. And my dad is Douglas Allen. They were both, I think my mom was like 27, my dad was like 28. I don't know. My dad's birthday is the 15th of September. So he's like, I came home from the hospital on his birthday. But I remember a little bit from when they were married. I remember them fighting a lot. Like a lot. And then from there, I remember when they got divorced. I mean, but like as far as divorce goes, like I didn't have a really bad, like, I'm sure I'm wiping red all over my face, but I really didn't have like a bad divorce story. Like, I feel bad for people. I've had friends that have gone through their parents getting divorced, like when we were in high school and junior high and stuff like that, and I can't imagine. Like, mine was just, that's all I ever knew. And so, you know, all that happened, and anything I remember from that was, I remember I was excited that I'd get 2 Christmases. Like, that's how I didn't understand it. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna get 2 Christmases, because that's what my cousin told me, because her parents were already divorced at the time. And so I remember my parents were like sitting on the bed in our little small house. It was so cute and so quaint, and I loved it, but which is actually, that house is right down the street from my dad's house now, which is funny. But they called us in, or like they called me in there, because Miller was just a little chunk back then and was sitting on the bed and he couldn't talk yet, I don't think, and they were like, Mommy and Daddy are getting divorced. And you know, I didn't really understand it until we had to like actually go, because my dad moved to Memphis, like actually go to Memphis after that. But you know, whatever. It wasn't really hard. It was hard as a child, having to understand, having to go far away. I think if he was here, I think if my dad lived here in Little Rock, I don't think it would have been as hard, but whatever. It wasn't really that bad. I mean, like, I hear all these like horror stories of like people going through like divorces with their parents, and like mine wasn't that bad, so I don't know. But so that happened. My dad moved to Memphis, which is like 2 hours away from here. We went there every other weekend. My dad got remarried eventually. My mom got remarried eventually. That was my dad's only marriage after my mom. He hasn't remarried since then. They got divorced. And then my mom married this guy that was a total jerk. And he thought like kids should be heard, or seen, not heard. He was ridiculous. And they got divorced. My dad's wife, which was the only stepmom I've ever had, I had 2 stepsisters, which I loved them to death. I was the annoying little kid that wanted to be like best friends with them. Still talk to them to this day. I thought they were pretty cool. I can see how I was annoying back then. I didn't get along with my stepmom at the time, but I have some respect for her now. Just because I think, you know, I think it was a weird, I think people are always going to have that weird stepmom, stepdaughter kind of thing, and I think it was weird because I didn't want anyone replacing my mom. And not that she was trying to, but I just always felt like she was. I don't know. It was a weird point. But I have respect for all of them. I don't dislike them to this day and everything. And it's just, I guess that when my dad got divorced from her, it really broke him. But I think everything happens for a reason. That was probably the first time that I've ever seen my dad broken. Like completely broken. And it was probably the saddest thing ever. So they got divorced, and it's weird because I remember when they got divorced, it was probably the first time that I've ever noticed it. For me, and that sounds so bad, but like I don't mean it this way, but like all good things in my life kind of come to an end. And Greg's probably the first thing that I've had that I don't think will come to an end. Like even when my mom died, it was just kind of fitting for my life, because it's like all good things come to an end. And I don't mean that like an oh poor pity me thing. It's just how it was. I mean, like I always could tell whenever a marriage, and you know, whether it was my mom's marriage or my dad's marriage, was ending, because the house always looked like crap. like things were just let go. No one cared anymore. And I think that's what it really broke down to, is you could tell no one cared anymore. And so, you know, all that. But like with my dad's house, because they like built a house in Memphis, and you know, I loved that house, and I loved the atmosphere of that house. I loved it around Christmas time. I remember Christmas was like the happy time because there wasn't really like problems during Christmas, but you could tell like it just was going to shit. Excuse my language. I don't think I've ever cussed on my channel. Whoops, it went to shit. So that happened, and then my mom remarried a second time to a guy who probably was like my favorite stepdad, but he had his demons as well. And I'm not gonna mention his name, so it really doesn't matter what I say if I say it, but he was a crack cocaine addict. He it was really bad. It was, I think my mom really wanted that relationship to work, and it was funny because you couldn't tell like that he was outside, and he, you know, my mom didn't know till way later, because you know, addicts are really good at hiding stuff, and I don't mean that in any bad way, and my mom was an addict in her own way, but he was bipolar as well. And anyone that's ever lived with someone who has bipolar, you know the whole manic stages and everything, and they're not fun. It's like watching someone you love completely change into something that you don't even recognize. Like, it's crazy. But that was all through high school. And I remember high school was probably like the weirdest time, because like I watched that happen, and you know, I got to a point where I watched my mom, and nothing against my mom, I love her to death, I really do, even now. I mean, I love her. I would say this even if she was still alive. I love her, and she has the most golden heart ever, and I think she just thought she could fix him, and she couldn't. But I got so used to watching those kinds of relationships that I thought my life was so weird and didn't make sense that I didn't deserve a healthy relationship. And so I was in a relationship at the time that wasn't healthy, and that relationship lasted for 5 years, and it was ridiculous, and it was not healthy, and I shouldn't have. I learned a lot from it, but I shouldn't have been in it. But the only reason I stayed in it was because I thought, oh well, I can't get better, so you know, and nothing against that person, but I mean, it just was not a good match between me and that person. So you know, I thought I couldn't do better, and you know, eventually I got to a point where I got enough self-esteem that I was like, hey, I can do better. And then Greg came into my life, and that was the best thing that could have ever happened. But you know, I watched my mom do that forever. My mom tried to save that marriage, and she couldn't, and I still talk to him to this day. He contacted me whenever my mom passed away, and he's a really nice guy, he really is, but he just has his own demons. I mean, it was kind of scary living, you know, my mom was like, no, you know, and of course addicts say like, you know, I'm gonna quit, and then she was like, my kids are in this situation. So it was just very scary. You know, I remember in that point in my life, the cops were probably called to my house at least a dozen times. I remember one time me, after I could drive, leaving, going to my boyfriend at the time's house in the middle of the night, and watching my dad fly down the same road with his flashers on, going to get Miller. I mean, those were years I put the headphones on Miller because I didn't want him to hear any of it, and I wanted to shelter him from it. I mean, it's not a sappy story, it's just part of my life. And it's weird looking back now that I have a hard time seeing if that really was my life, because everything that happened before my mom died doesn't even seem like me anymore. But yeah, all that happened, and they got divorced my junior year of high school, and so then senior year went along like regular, normal. We moved into a little house that I think was probably the coolest part, or like the coolest part for a while, because my mom, Miller, and I were the three of us again for the first time in years, I think, since after my mom and dad got divorced. And it was just kind of a simple time. The guy that I had been dating at the time, we broke up for a little bit, and I learned a little bit more on how to stand on my own, and that helped a lot later on. And you know, I grew a lot of confidence, Miller grew into his own, and it was just a nice little house. It was just kind of a fun little simple time. But you know, we did have our hard times too. I mean, like, there was a point where we couldn't afford to pay the hot water bill, so we didn't have hot water for like 3 weeks, I think it was 3.5 weeks or 4, and that happened multiple times. But we would boil water on the stove and then just take showers with that. And I remember being embarrassed to let my friends know that, and I wouldn't let anyone over because I was just embarrassed of that. But looking back at it now, it kind of shows how my mom literally like she tried so hard to keep everything together. I mean, she always had food on the table, everything like that, but little things like that just kind of went in and out, and it wasn't abnormal for our cable bill not to be paid or the lights to go off in the middle of the day or something like that, and, you know, but we got through it, and I learned a lot from it, and I think now, you know, I learned that, and I saw that, and I don't want my kids to go through that, and so, you know, I'm trying really hard to plan for my future, and, you know, marrying a guy like Greg, I know I'm investing in my future, and it's just kind of nice. But, you know, that time was hard, but it was simple in its own way. And at that point, my dad was kind of in between things, and he'd come stay at on our couch for like weeks, just because he'd be working here. And no one really, I don't think anyone would believe me, but I totally think my mom and my dad were hooking up at that point. Sorry, Dad, if you're watching this, but I think they were. And it's so funny because I think my mom and my dad were in love in a certain way until they died, or until she died, but they'll never, you know, I don't think they would have ever admitted it, but I think if she had lived, they probably would have gotten back together, and that's not later on the line, and that's not me being, you know, the 5-year-old Alexa thinking that, you know, oh, my parents are going to get back together, because I never wanted my parents to get back together, but I think they would have had things worked out differently, but, you know, God has a plan with everything. So I graduated high school. My dad was not married, my dad was dating a girl at the time, and she was god-awful, like ridiculous. Like, she just wasn't a good fit with our family. She was just very hoity-toity. She was very wishy-washy. You just couldn't tell if she was your friend or not, and it's just ridiculous. So, she was there for all that. That was fun. My mom and I had a few jokes about that one, but anyway, they dated until around my mom died, but we'll get to that. So then I graduated, and I went to a local college, which, looking back, was probably a really good decision. I'm really glad that I did. I moved out on my own, and I moved in with someone y'all may know here on YouTube, Lauren, XOXOLC. And honestly, I was so into trying to save my stupid relationship with my boyfriend at the time that I let that friendship go, and I still regret that to this day. Luckily, we've, you know, kind of fixed things, and she's a bridesmaid at my wedding, but I really didn't treat her the way that she needed to be treated at the time. I wasn't a good friend, I wasn't a good roommate, and we just parted ways, and we didn't talk for a really long time. And that's one of the things I really regret, is letting a guy get in the way, or the wrong guy, well, let's put it that way, the wrong guy get in the way of a friendship, because she was probably one of the best friends I've ever had, and I let it go because of a stupid guy that I wouldn't even give a second thought now, you know, and so it was just ridiculous. So she moved out, and then I lived by myself for a little bit, and around that time, my friend Rachel committed suicide. She and I were really good friends back in junior high, and then I met like a little bit into high school, but not really too far past freshman year, and we had reconnected like a week before she died, and she was bipolar, and it was interesting because she helped me a lot when my stepdad at the time was having manic episodes and everything, and I'd call her bawling and be like, oh my gosh, my parents are fighting again, you know, and so all this different stuff, and then she ended up being bipolar, so it was just kind of weird how everything turned out. And she committed suicide right on the street from my apartment, which was really hard because she was missing for like a day, and if you've been watching my channel for a long time, then you know that story. And it was just really hard, and it was the first time I'd ever really lost anyone, and, you know, and it's weird because now I look at it and it was almost like a foreshadow into the bigger thing that I was going to lose, which is my mom. So it was really interesting, but I lost her, and that was really hard, and my grades slipped a little bit after that, but I think I just wanted something. I mean, I missed her, and it was really hard, but I wanted something to hold on to. I wanted something dramatic. I wanted something to feel like I was a part of, and I think that's why I latched onto that now looking back, because the ways I reacted to that were a lot different than the ways I reacted to my mom. It's just like, and I know it's different losing a friend and losing a mom, but like, or losing a parent, but like, it was totally, I want to say it's faked because it wasn't, but I think it was taken a little further than it needed to. And I think that was just because I wasn't mature enough and I didn't understand it. But after that, I got a lot of tattoos. That was not okay. you know, I never really drank. I never did drugs. I never did anything like that. And I just wanted something down to the bone to do. So I got tattoos. And, you know, a lot of people ask me why I'm getting them removed, like certain ones removed now. And a bunch of y'all have been like, but Alexa, that was a part of your life. Well, yeah, that was a part of my life. But that's not a part of my life I want to explain to someone every time they ask me what it is. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go through that. I don't want to touch on that again. And especially now, I think a big reason too is especially now that, you know, my mom has passed away, and I do feel like that wasn't me back then. And I know, and anyone who has lost someone will understand that, but I literally feel like I have to remind myself sometimes that that was my life. Like, that really happened to me. And it sounds so weird, but it's so true. And so, you know, I got those tattoos, and I'm in the process of getting them removed. I want to get them removed because they're not me. They're just not, and they're not something I feel so strongly about. I'm not getting all of them removed. Like, I'm keeping my 12, and I'm keeping this one. And, yeah, so that wasn't me. And it was just a part. I dyed my hair really dark. It was right around when I started YouTube. Just wasn't me. I think that's why when someone would leave a hate comment or something, it got to me so bad, because I was just so unhappy at that point, and I couldn't figure out who I was, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to be, and I was overweight at the time, and I wasn't happy with that. I was an emotional eater, and like literally would go to Taco Bell at like midnight and get their cheesy fiesta potatoes with no sour cream. I remember that. Yeah, I do. But literally, like, it wasn't even the fact of like I was being healthy and I was that way. I just wasn't being healthy. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was depressed. I got back on because I started taking antidepressants my senior year after I went through my first real like big breakup with that guy that I was with for a really long time, and it was really, really hard, and I was really depressed. And then I got back on them after Rachel died, and then I've taken them on and off until my mom died, and like 3 weeks before my mom died I stopped taking them, which was really bad. But anyway, so then college went through, and you know, within college I lost one of my old friends, my grandpa, my grandma, or my grandpa, my mom, and my grandma. So I lost 4 people in college, which was really hard. My mom, I knew I was gonna cry part of this. My mom was always there. She really was. She was the one at the end of the day that I could always count on. She was my constant. And you know, I met Greg at the perfect time, because I met Greg in 2011. We didn't start dating till 2012. And my mom got to meet him and everything. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you believe in God or anything like that, but it's kind of like God gave me a new constant, because he knew I was about to lose my one constant. You know, she was the one that was always there. She had her own issues, and we fought, and all I wanted was the best for her. But losing her really just made anything that happened before that just disappear. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to explain everything today and kind of go through my background, because sometimes I have to remind myself that stuff happened to me and I don't really believe it. And I know that sounds weird, but it's just reality. So I wanted to go through that before I go through anything with my mom, because y'all need to know that all that happened, but a lot of that stuff, like I said, I have to remind myself that it even happened, because the day my mom died, it's like that life ended and a new one started. And I want y'all to know also, by saying this, and this is kind of what I'm going to start it by, is yeah, all that stuff happened. You know, I had kind of a rough high school years at home, and whew, I'm sorry that hit me so hard. But you know, all that happened, and then my mom died. You can go through stuff like no one's business, but don't let it define you. It can be a part of you, but don't let it define you. I hate when someone introduces me and they go, yeah, she lost her mom like a year ago. I hate that, because I'm not just Alexa, the one who lost her mom. I'm Alexa, the college grad, Greg's future wife, a great sister, a great daughter, you know, a YouTube vlogger, a sales associate, a Catholic, a fun girl. I'm so many more things than just that girl that lost her mom, or that girl that had a crack addict stepfather at one point, or that girl that had parents that married multiple times. You know, I'm a lot more than that. And you know, I just want y'all to see that after probably the one thing that broke me more than anything ever will. My mom dying broke me more than anyone will ever understand. And I'm still standing. So I may fall sometimes, but I'm still standing. So I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I hope you kind of are enjoying this series. I'm sure there will be more outbursts of crying. Y'all can cry with me. But I hate crying. I have such an ugly cry face too. Anyway, okay, well, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'll see you next week in another episode, but more videos in between. If y'all like this series, then give it a thumbs up. I always get vulnerable at the end of this because I'm like, I just cried on camera. No.